Welcome. My name is Paige Sharp, Deputy Director in Programs for the Indiana Arts Commission. Thank you for tuning in to learn more about IDEA and community engagement. Just a heads up, this presentation is primarily developed for organizations, particularly those seeking our grant support, although all are certainly welcome to join us. And before we get started, I wanted to first note that if you need accommodations for this webinar or any of our guidelines or applications, do not hesitate to reach out to Stephanie Haynes, IAC Arts Education and Accessibility Manager, instrumental in helping put this program together for you. So let's first start with why the IAC is focused on community engagement and inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, or IDEA. As a publicly funded agency, it's important to us to get public arts funds back to the public so all can benefit. We want to increase access to the arts while helping our friends expand community engagement and IDEA work to address structural inequities, increase impact, and embrace new opportunities available as a result, like increased connection, attendance, or in-kind support. You may be wondering if IDEA and community engagement is something important for your organization to be working on, outside of answering our grant questions, of course. The answer is absolutely. My bet is that your mission is already focused on making an impact in your community. Working IDEA strategies is that at its core. Our goal is to help you understand community engagement and IDEA, including definitions, ways to think through this work as it relates to your work, and help you understand what the IAC is looking for. But we won't be giving you the one right answer in this presentation, mostly because there is no one right answer in this work. But we will help guide you through a thought process by asking you questions and showing examples so that you can find the right answers for your organization, your project, or situation. We know IDEA work can be a little overwhelming and a little scary, but let's be clear, we're not looking for organizations to be everyone to everything all the time, or for you to make a seismic change. Good gravy, no. This work takes time. Think 10-pound weight versus 100-pound weight, or slow and steady wins the race. Little changes go a long way. We're looking for intentional efforts so more people can benefit from the great work you're doing. So let's start with community engagement. It's what you do to develop two-way, mutually beneficial relationships. We have a whole video that dives into community engagement and provides great case examples. Please watch it. It'll really help. But essentially, it is about working with the community, not for the community, rather than just assuming you know what the community wants or needs. With community engagement, you ask. The community is more likely to be a part of what you do and benefit from it if developing relationships is part of your process. But what about IDEA? If you're familiar with us, IAC talks a lot about community engagement, but equally important as what we do is how we do it, and that's where IDEA comes in. IDEA is an acronym for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. When we implement IDEA in our community engagement, we address structural inequities. So let's look at the IDEA's definitions. Inclusion, all feel welcomed and valued. Diversity, all the ways we differ. Equity, all having the opportunity to fully participate. And access, of any and all abilities. These are the Cliff Notes definitions, most definitely. For more detailed definitions and resources, check out our webpage. If you lose the link, just visit our website and type IDEA in the search area. But what is IDEA really in practice? Let's think through this in steps. Identifying and defining community is your first step, and then planning with their input and making it relevant and integrating IDEA strategies. And then you move on to the fourth step, measuring success. For example, picture an arts organization. Their building meets all the accessibility requirements for people on a mobility device like a wheelchair, but they've heard some frustrations expressed, and given their programming, it's important to provide better access. So the organization decides to deepen their IDEA efforts. But where to start? What changes need to be made? Here's where our suggested steps come in. Start with a conversation. Start with sitting down with a group or person who can give you their perspective as someone who uses a mobility device. Together, identify what needs to be done, and then start with small changes to make changes that matter. Check in to see if it's working, and then keep moving forward using your success as a guide to the next step. When you break it down, it's more easy to map out a path forward. So let's start with your community. Who do you serve? We all have those tried and true fans that regularly participate in our creative work, and those who participate in a variety of our activities. How would you describe them? Are they mostly older, younger, white, veterans from a certain area of the community, or from all across the state? Who comes to your programs and activities, and who doesn't? Heads up, IAC is strongly focused on increasing access to underserved communities. Does your community include people lacking access to arts programs, services, or resources due to isolated geographic location, low income, age, race, ethnicity, cultural differences, disability, or other circumstances? What about veterans or folks from an institution or incarceration? If you can say yes, we definitely want to hear about it in your application. Now that you've thought through who's in your community, who could be in your community, are you trying to engage younger audiences or maybe older audiences, or find more racial diversity, or make your programs available to people with autism or hearing impaired? Who might bring something new and dynamic, or who is a natural fit for your organization? Maybe your organization primarily serves youth, but you realize most youth are of a certain demographic or area. How can you expand or shift some of what you already do to others? Think about what makes the most sense for your organization and go from there, remembering to get input along the way. The next step is planning. Once you know more about who you serve or seek to serve, how are you engaging them in planning? How are you meeting their needs? Remember, good community engagement work is mutually beneficial, and when both parties communicate and express needs, all participants should benefit. For example, if you're looking to increase the racial diversity of your audience, it's important for them to be represented, from marketing materials to the project or event itself. How are you providing access and getting input? Does everyone have to come to your facility, or is your organization willing to go outside the institutional walls to increase access? There are a lot of ways to get input. You can get input from a survey, a focus group of stakeholders, a partnership, or a planning committee that includes those voices you wish to serve. Ask them what their needs and interests are, what barriers keep them from getting involved. Attend community meetings outside your usual audience. Develop trust. Here's the key. Take action to get information rather than assuming or waiting for information to come to you. Identifying a community, check. Gathering input, check. Now it's time to put to good use that input of your planning and good community engagement steps. The goal of the strategy step is to find ways to decrease the barriers. Thinking about the work your organization does, how can you integrate useful strategies for idea into the work you're already doing? If this seems like a big step, just know you don't have to do everything at once. Even if you have a big goal for decreasing barriers, you can and should break it down into small steps. Depending on the community you're seeking to serve, you can consider strategies like adjusting the program location. Maybe you host one of your 5 usual performances in a new space so that that audience gets access to your great work and you to engage with new audiences, like a symphony performing in a park, or taking one of their quartets to a long-term care facility. You could adjust program scheduling, like maybe the program occurs at lunch for a reduced rate so more can attend, or adjusting marketing communications. Maybe you're using more accessible and inclusive language, providing large print for visually impaired, or materials in another language to create access. Maybe you've added childcare, transportation, food, or lower admission tickets for your target audience. Key is finding out what your audience needs by gathering their input. Located in Gary, Indiana, Beachfront Dance School provides classical ballet and a variety of other dance classes to their community. But not long ago, Beachfront noticed kids that really wanted to learn but weren't included because of special needs. So they immediately worked to provide can-do dance. They found an experienced instructor to provide this opportunity so the children could learn ballet uniquely designed for them. Dancers were also able to perform in the annual performance along with their peers. This small shift has a big impact in the lives of these kids. Beachfront provided access to the arts to this diverse group of kids where they felt welcomed and included. This program also gave Beachfront quite a bit of exposure as they were highlighted and recognized at the 2019 Indiana Arts Homecoming Conference for their great work. You don't have to change who you are or what your art form is about to do this work. If you're worried about isolating your core audience, then take small steps, not giant leaps. Your tried and true patrons love your special kind of community theater. And you can still have those fantastic performances, but maybe with input from new community members, it will look a little different. For example, to provide broader access to those who may not be able to afford it, your organization offers a pay-what-you-can performance on Thursdays during final rehearsal. And a step further, you partner with an organization that serves low-income families to provide transportation to bring them there. This increases access and helps ensure participation. Or maybe your choral group wants to engage with them more deeply with a racially diverse community. Start developing relationships. Maybe it's as simple as being backup singers at one of their performances. Who knows? The fun is finding out what benefits both of you and then making it happen. So what else is IAC looking for when it comes to idea strategies and initiatives from arts organizations? There's a spectrum of work to be done, from first steps to deeper work. Focus on what's important to your organizations. But for some examples, thinking about increasing board or staff diversity, or integrating idea-related priorities into your organization's strategic plan, or developing and adopting an organization equity or diversity statement, or adopt inclusive policies and practices for the entire organization, and provide professional development for the staff and board in cultural competency, like implicit bias training. And now we've come to step 4, measuring success. To know what worked and what didn't, you'll have to do some evaluation. When you measure your success, you really know the impacts of the work. You can keep the good ideas and get rid of what isn't working for you. But most importantly, evaluating is another critical time to get input from your community. Ask them what worked or didn't. And then you can feed the results right back into your next activity, program, project, policy, or whatever for future growth and results. There are lots of tools and methods to measure your impact, from post wrap-up meetings to participation data and anecdotal stories, feedback from the audience. The key is, what are you hoping to achieve? And the measuring determine if that happened. Measure what matters to you. All right, let's recap about the big picture of idea and community engagement. First, identify who's in your community and who could be. Second, find ways to connect and plan with them, and use community engagement practice to ensure relevance. Third, use your community's input to develop and implement idea strategies. And finally, measure success. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. Idea and community engagement, when done well, should increase your resources and opportunities, meaningfully engage new people, and contribute to long-term sustainability through relevancy and value to community. Good luck and have fun, and thank you for tuning in with us.